Hello again. The word fascism is bandied about so freely as a term of abuse that it has become simply a part of the background noise of European politics. Anybody holding political views even slightly to the right of orthodox Marxism is routinely denounced as being a fascist. Most of the time, neither those using the term nor the recipients of the supposed insult really know what it means. Except, of course, that fascism is often believed to be synonymous with Nazi Germany, and since this was a repulsive and wicked regime, it is assumed that all fascist governments must tend towards the same aggressive and irrational ideas as those embraced by the National Socialists in Germany. It's not true. The fact that there have been ghastly and cruel states which claim to be socialist does not tell us anything useful or true about socialism itself. It merely reminds us that any ideology can be misused. Soviet Russia was an example of a cruel and bad socialist regime, just as Nazi Germany was an instance of an awful fascist one. This tells us nothing, though, about the nature of socialism and fascism themselves. Fascism is simply a doctrine which is opposed both to capitalism and communism. It advocates a strong leader, a patriotic view of the nation, and the acceptance that the individual must submit his own desires to the common good. If one wants to examine a totalitarian regime in practice which benefited a European country and was fascist in all but name, one could, instead of looking at the pre-war nations of Germany and Italy, cast a look at Portugal in the 1960s. One often forgets that from 1932 until 1968, Portugal was ruled by a dictator, Antonio Salazar. The country was stable and prosperous under Salazar's rule and avoided involvement in the Second World War. It is interesting that whenever liberals talk about fascism, they hope to raise the spectre of Nazi Germany and the Holocaust, as though such things are an inevitable consequence of an authoritarian fascist state. They're not. Portugal flourished under an essentially fascist government and managed very well throughout the 1960s without democracy. I shall be saying more about fascism and the possible advantages of this system over that of the liberal democracy, which has become the universally accepted pattern for European countries, in further videos. For now, though, it is worth simply considering why we are so frightened of the very word fascist in a way that we are not of socialist. Both systems have in the past led to concentration camps and genocide, but one has now been rehabilitated, and it's perfectly okay to call yourself a socialist. Just try telling people you're a fascist, though, and see the looks you get.